What's going on, guys? Isaac here, back again with a $400 entry-level gaming PC. This would be a good computer if you're just trying to get into games like League and maybe a little bit of CSGO, but eventually it'll lead to upgrades that you can do in the future, but it'll be a great starter PC for right now. Now for the CPU, I went with the AMD Ryzen 5 3400G, 3.7 GHz quad-core processor. And this is an APU, so that's what I went with. An APU basically means that you don't have to have a graphics card or anything like that. Everything will be handled on the CPU. And for what you're paying for at the 150 mark, it's a great starter. You could go other ways, but it will be more expensive. But I think for $150, this would be a great starter CPU. It is a quad core, which is good. And the APU is actually not that bad for what you think you might get. But anyway, let's move on. Now for the CPU cooler, I just left it with the base Ryzen CPU coolers they come with, because really you're not going to be, there's no need for a aftermarket CPU cooler with this processor, and the base one is just fine. There's really no need to upgrade. Now for the motherboard, I went with something that you will be able to use in upgrades later down the line, so that's the main reason. And for that, I went with the Gigabyte B450M DS3H Micro ATX motherboard. I've been using this a lot in these budget-minded builds because it is a Micro ATX, which still keeps most of the features of your bigger boards, but is on the cheaper side at $73. And Gigabyte, I've had multiple of their boards, whether it be the Aorus line or just the base Gigabyte line, and I just haven't had any problems with them at all. And this board has some features like an M.2 slot and some 4 RAM slots and stuff like that you will be able to use for future upgrades down the line. But for this budget PC, you could get cheaper, knock another $20-$30 off the price and maybe put it into another SSD or hard drive, something like that. But for this, I just wanted to stay with the B450 motherboard. Now for the memory, I chose the G.Skill Aegis 8GB kit of 3200 DDR4 memory. And I went with the 8GB because it is priced at $36, and since it's a much budget-minded build, you really don't need 16 gigs, because you shouldn't be doing any workstation or computing tasks on this PC at $400. And 8GB is a pretty good medium level. There's really no need to have any more. But again, later down the line, just say if you decide to upgrade your CPU or GPU 2 years down the line or something like that, you can keep the same motherboard and you can just buy another one of these RAM sticks to throw in there too, and then you'll have up 16 GB. So that ought to be pretty good. Now for the storage, it may be a little different than what you would think, but I went with PNY CS900 500 gig SSD. And I went with the 500 gig because, again, later down the line. But to me, SSDs are so cheap now, there's really no reason to have one. You could swap this out for a 2TB hard drive or spend about $10 less and get a 1TB hard drive. But I really just, once you have an SSD, you'll really know why that a lot of people have them and a lot of people praise them. But PNYs are a good brand. I've had one for about 3 or 4 years now, as I've stated before. And this one ought to be good for your first build. Now for the case, I went with the Cooler Master Masterbox Q300L Tough Gaming Edition Micro ATX Mini Tower case. I don't know why, but I've been really liking this case here recently. There is another version that is a little bit more expensive, mainly just because of the fans they include with it. But this one's still the same chassis, it just has the Tough Edition, whatever it is, I really don't know, to be honest with you. But the other version, it does have blue LED fans if you would be into that. But anyway, they still have the same amount of fans. So pick your poison. The blue one, the one with the blue fan, seems to go. The price fluctuates more because it goes out of stock more. But this one, for 48 bucks, you really can't complain about it. Now for the power supply, I just went for something that was on the cheaper side, and you really can't get much cheaper, with still retaining the black cables, as the Thermaltake Smart Series 430 watt 80 plus certified power supply. And it does have the 80 plus certification. It's not bronze or anything. So we'll have an 80 plus efficiency, unlike some of the other cheaper ones that are out there. And with the black cables and not the mustard and ketchup colored cables, this one will be perfectly fine. And overall, this PC should be good for you, whether you're playing League and stuff like that, in which you really don't need a powerful system, or you expect to just have a system now and maybe upgrade later down the line. Either or. Anyway, thanks for watching and see ya.